Well, hello again, BookTube. Today is Friday, and that means Friday Reads, where people on this corner of BookTube all make a video and tell you about the books that they read, the books that they have been reading, the books that they are going to read. And so I thought I would do that today, at least talk to you about a book that I've been reading. It's actually a reread for me, um, but I wanted to do that. But before I do that, I wanted to sort of just show you a couple books that I got recently. Not it's not enough books to consider it a book haul, so I will just show it in here. Uh, and both of them have been spurred on by Steve Donahue, this corner of BookTube's resident horse jockey, and he talked about both of these books in different hedgehog book recommendations that he's been doing. And so I found each of these books for pretty cheap, and so I went ahead and got them. And this first one is it's a trilogy of novels, but it's all just sort of combined into one book. It's the Balkan trilogy by Olivia Manning. I sort of have to hold the book like this because the glare is really bad. This has a sort of a glossy cover, and it's a trilogy of novels about a a young couple who gets married in the early stages of the Second World War, and it's sort of about their journey throughout Eastern Europe um, trying to escape the Nazi war machine. And when Steve talked about it in his when Steve talked about it in his recommendation video, it sounded very alluring to me, sounded very promising, and so I went ahead and got a copy. I wanted to find one that was a trilogy of all three of the books and smashed into one. I figured just it would be cheaper that way. And this was released by Penguin Books. I don't know if this is sort of the cover for the movie. In this particular edition, it talks about how there was a film adaptation of this for BBC that starred Kenneth Branagh and the actress, I forget her name, um, but like based on the cover of it's really blurry, but that looks like Kenneth Branagh in the cover, doesn't it? So I don't know if this is the cover for the BBC series or not. Sort of an odd, sort of just an odd cover. I eventually, if I end up liking this after I read it, I want to find the edition that the New York Review of Books just put out. They put out the same thing. They put all three of the books into one big trade paperback, but the cover for that is much more appealing. And so if I read this and enjoy it, then I want to find that cover and have that be my sort of display copy or reading copy, because this also, I don't know if you can tell, but it has a weird pink cover across the whole thing, and I don't really know why that is. I don't know if maybe it was one cover and it was sort of stained after after several years, because I think this particular copy is from like the late 1980s, and so uh, yeah. But anyway, so I got that one, and then the other book I got, it just came in the mail today, is by Mary Raynault, and it's called The Praise Singer. Um, this is a novel that came out in, I think it was 1978, and this is actually a first edition hardcover, which is pretty cool considering I got it for free. And uh, it's about a character named Simonides. I don't know if it's the same Simonides like from Greek history or not, but this is about at least a character named Simonides who uh, he travels around ancient Greece and he sings different stories. So this would have been one of those people that sang from memory and performed a lot of these stories from Homer's Iliad or Homer's Odyssey, and he would uh, people like this, they would travel throughout ancient Greece and perform for different courts, different kings, things like that. And so I'm actually the book that I'm going to tell you about that I'm reading right now has something to do with this, which was coincidental. I didn't get this because of that, but I I did get this, and because I sing in a choir, and I'm a pretty musical person, and so a whole novel about about a praise singer from ancient Greece. That was appealing to me. Also, I haven't gotten through it all, but the little bit that I have read of her book, The Nature of Alexander, I really like. Let's just say that she is in love with Alexander the Great, um, and so I went ahead and got this as well because the little bit that I have read of that book, I enjoy the way that she writes, and so I'm sure that I would probably like this. And since this is a first edition hardcover from 1978, and then whoever had this last bought this for, I would assume, for her husband or boyfriend or whatever, because I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but it up here it says "Merry Christmas, Bob. Love from." I don't know if that says Babs or Barb on it. I have no idea, but it was dated 1978, so I thought that was kind of cool. And then whoever Bob is, he put that little indentation, the imprint. It says like from the library of RDL. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. So yeah, so I got this for really really cheap. So those are the two books that I just got that I wanted to just show you. And the book that I have been reading, I've been reading on this thing. I believe you kids call it an e-reader, a Kindle. I just got a case for this not too long ago, so this is like a leather slipcase. And the book that I have been reading is, like I said, it's a reread for me, and the it is the Iliad by Homer. And like I said, I read this before. I read this actually last year. I don't remember what spurred it on, but I have the Penguin Classic Deluxe trade paperback of this, and this Robert Fagles translation. This is the one that I read, so this is a full on reread for me. And I think I've made it about 5 books in so far, and I am really enjoying it. I'm enjoying it much more the second time around than I did the first time. I will say when I read this for the first time last year, I think it was last April, uh, I really enjoyed the first quarter of it, and then from about the middle of the book to the end was very tedious for me. I don't know. I probably just didn't know enough about the Greek mythology, things like that. But when I read this the first time, I was really bored with it around that point because after a while it got to pretty much 100 different ways that you can kill somebody, which is fine. I mean, this is a whole book about the Trojan War and the ending of the Trojan War, but after a while it got really tedious because it was just the same thing over and over and over again. And the way that the characters talk in this, it's an ancient Greek thing, and so anytime, say, there's a scene when a soldier asks another soldier a question, I don't know, rather than saying like yes or no, he's over here, it, the person always goes, well, that reminds me of a tale. And so they talk for 3 pages about this story that is in the past, and which that for me that was interesting the first 20 times that happened, but then when it just kept going every single time and that was the dialogue every single time, it really bored me. And it just, every time I got to something like that, I would just roll my eyes and wish that I would get a spear through my head. uh, and which I'm used to sort of more modern novels, or the classic novels of, like, say, the 1800s and the 1700s and 1800s, where uh, they can go, those novels, the dialogue can go on, but it doesn't, like, they don't talk the same way as in this, as in, like, in the Iliad. So I was probably unfair to it the first time whenever I read it, but the second time around, at least so far, I'm having a much better time reading this. I'm able to blast through it much quicker, and yeah, I'm able to pick up on things that I didn't notice the first time. And I mean, I don't know anything about translations or things like that, but the Robert Fagles translation has worked really well for me. Um, a few years ago. I tried reading. I think it was the Samuel Butler translation that was in prose, and that didn't work very well for me. I didn't make it very far in it. But Robert Fagel's like his translation is not the reason why I was having a terrible time the last time when I read this. So I think it was just trying to get used to that style of storytelling and the way that the characters talked. But like I said, I'm about five. I think I've made it to book five. So that is, I believe that's Hector, or no, yeah, Hector returning to Troy. And so, uh, a lot has happened just in these five books. That is one thing that I don't know that I noticed the first time around about how much has happened just in five books. And there's been a plague. There's been Achilles has threatened to kill Agamemnon. All of this stuff has just been, and it gets thrown at you, and it's emotionally exhausting, but in a good way. That in the way that the good books are, and there have been some quotes that I've saved from this that I just wanted to read to you that I just love, and something I do like about this Kindle is that you're able to sort of highlight quotes that you enjoyed. So I thought I'd read a couple of these quotes from you that just really stuck out to me. And so this first one is from book one, and it's from The Rage of Achilles, is what Fagles calls it. And this is the scene when, so in book one, after Agamemnon, he steals this, I think Chryses, steals that guy's daughter and basically keeps her as a sex slave. That guy begged for his daughter to be returned, and Agamemnon said, "No, screw you." And so Chryses prayed to the gods, and then a whole plague swept across the the Achaean armies. And so, because Agamemnon was just he was a prick like most of the characters in these stories, and so so through one thing or another, Agamemnon return decides to return this guy's daughter to to this guy's kingdom, but in return, he decides to steal Achilles, a sex slave that he took, which is the whole thing about what started the rage of Achilles, about why he refused to fight in the Trojan War up at this point, or well, refused to fight after this. And so, but anyway, so Odysseus is charged by Agamemnon with returning this woman to her father's kingdom, the one that Agamemnon stole. And whenever they return the woman to the kingdom, that also that gets the plague taken away from the Achaean army. And when Odysseus and his army returns this woman to the guy's kingdom, they also bring sacrificial animals that they can slaughter, and then they have a big feast afterward. And so I wanted to read this quote from you. I just really like it. So it talks about uh, all the people in this guy's kingdom and in Odysseus's military. They all get together to prepare and slaughter the animals for this feast. And this says, "The work done, the feast laid out, they ate well, and no man's hunger lacked a share of the banquet. When they had put aside desire for food and drink, the young men brimmed the mixing bowls with wine, and tipping first drops for the god in every cup, they poured full rounds for all. And all day long they appeased the god with song, raising a ringing hymn to the distant archer god, that is Apollo, who drives away the plague. Those young Achaean warriors singing out his power, and Apollo listened, his great heart warm with joy." So, yeah, that's just a quote from that I enjoyed, because it shows you, like, after this terrible thing that happened, with all the plague getting swept across the Achaeans, they all get together and they slaughter some animals, and then oh, they're all friends again, and then the plague gets taken away uh, from the Achaeans. And so there's that quote from this, and then the other one is from book 2, from the Great Gathering of Armies, and this is when uh, Agamemnon is sort of manipulated and given that dream where manipulated into starting this whole, bringing back the whole battle again, starting gathering all of his armies for one final push to take over Troy. Because if you've not read the Iliad actually takes place in like the last year, like year and a half of the Trojan War. The Trojan War lasts 10 years, and it lasts, and the story is set about a year before it ends. And so uh, Agamemnon he's the leader of the Achaean army, and he is tasked with, he and Odysseus, well, he sends Odysseus to gather all of these armies from across Greece to support them and come to Troy to take over Troy and everything. And so this quote, it comes from like the gathering of armies and all of the different militaries uh, coming to Troy, marching to Troy, and preparing for war. So I just thought I'd read you this. This says, as ravening fire rips through big stands of timber high on a mountain ridge and the blaze flares miles away, so from the marching troops the blaze of bronze armor, splendid and superhuman, flared across the earth, flashing into the air to hit the skies. Armies gathering now as the huge flocks on flocks of winged birds, geese or cranes or swans with their long lancing necks, circling Asian marches round the Cayster outflow, wheeling in all directions, glorying in their wings, keep on landing, advancing, wave on shrieking wave, and the tidal flats resound. So tribe on tribe, pouring out of the ships and shelters, marched across the Scamander plain, and the earth shook. Tremendous thunder from under trampling men and horses, drawing into position down the Scamander meadow flats, breaking into flower. Men by the thousands, numberless as the leaves and spears that flower forth in spring, the armies massing, crowding thick and fast as the swarms of flies seething over the shepherds' stalls in the first spring days when the buckets flood with milk. So many long-haired Achaeans swarmed across the plain to confront the Trojans, fired to smash their lines. So no matter what translation you're reading, as long as it's a good translation, you get these big, this very cinematic descriptions of all of these thousands upon thousands of soldiers marching across the mountains and the plains to meet the Trojans in battle. And so this is a very testosterone-filled, like big, angry, masculine book, but not in the way that something like David Foster Wallace is, not in the way that it's posing. This is a book about war, and so yeah, there's that. And then the last one I wanted to read you, and then we can be done because this has gone on for too long, is from book 3, and it is when finally, so all of the armies that are fighting for the Achaeans have all shown up onto the shores, and they're marching towards the city of Troy, and Helen and Paris and all of the sort of royalty of Troy are sitting on top of the walls, looking over and seeing this massive army coming toward them, and across like this desert plain that they're coming across. And so the Trojans are sending their military out to meet them. And so this is sort of from Helen of Troy's perspective of seeing this massive military, thousands of Achaean soldiers marching toward their city, basically wanting to sack it and destroy it. So this says, when the south wind showers mist on the mountain tops, no friend to shepherds, better than night to thieves, You can see no farther than you can fling a stone. So dust came clouding, swirling up from the feet of armies marching at top speed, trampling through the plain. And so, again, that sort of big atmospheric description of what is going on of this giant army marching toward the city is captivating whenever you're reading it. And so I think I'm having a much better time reading this the second time around. So yeah, so that's what I've been reading. I intend to. The whole reason I wanted to even read this was because, if unless you've been living under a rock, you know that the Christopher Nolan adaptation of the Odyssey came out, and I really wanted to read the Odyssey, but I thought I should probably reread the Iliad again because there's just, I mean, you don't have to like read the Iliad before you read the Odyssey. Both books can sort of live on their own. It doesn't matter where you start. But technically the Iliad takes place before the Odyssey, and so I kind of wanted to just read this as sort of the prequel and then jump right into actually reading the Odyssey. I've not read the Odyssey yet. I've read the Iliad once, but yeah, and I have the Robert Fagel's translation of this as well, both in physical and in ebook format. Again, thanks Steve for this and sending this. But yeah, I think that's all I wanted to talk about. So yeah, I'm reading the Iliad. I'm really enjoying it the second time around. I'll see once I get to the more tedious parts on if I understand it and appreciate it better the second time around. So yeah, that's all I wanted to talk to you about. That's my Friday reads. So yeah, I'll see you later.